Hi, this is Jen Rubin, and this is Jen Rubin's Green Room. No one can say we don't have a choice in the 2024 presidential election. Kamala Harris this week gave a detailed, specific economic speech in Pittsburgh. She then did a one-on-one interview with Stephanie Ruhle, one of the best business reporters, and for 25 minutes answered questions about aspects of her economic policy. She's a serious grown-up. You can agree or disagree with some of the policies, but she at least thinks these things through. What's Donald Trump offering? A tax cut for billionaires, an absurd across-the-board tariff plan that would create havoc on the international economic stage and represent a crushing tax on American consumers, and a armed, bloody deportation of millions of people. This is not hard, people. One person is a serious grown-up looking to solve problems, and the other is a psychopath. And if you had any question, look at how they treated President Zelensky of Ukraine. Vice President Harris met with Zelensky. She then delivered an impassioned speech, set of remarks, in which she praised Ukraine, pledged that the United States would always defend Ukraine, made clear that we cannot allow Putin to violate sovereignty, that if we do, the Baltic states, the rest of Eastern Europe will collapse, and that we have a moral obligation to help Ukraine defend themselves. It was a perfect enunciation of bipartisan, solid, pro-American foreign policy. What did Trump do? Today, he stood by Zelensky and had the nerve to say that Zelensky supported him when he was being impeached for trying to extort Zelensky. He had the nerve to praise Putin as he stood next to Zelensky. Not only was this vile, was this another instance in which he embraces our enemies, but it was stupid. Trump's a dumb man. If you wanted to at least make some effort to cover your tracks, to appear to be a normal president, you could have said very little, or you could have simply thanked Zelensky for meeting with him. But Trump doesn't know how to be normal. He doesn't know how to even fake normalcy. It's all on view. So these Republicans who say, I can't bring myself to vote for Kamala Harris, really? It's that hard? As Liz Cheney said again in an interview, she is proud to support Kamala Harris. She's pro-American, she's an honorable person, she's honest, and she will defend America against its enemies. Trump will not. So if you sense a little bit of exasperation on my part, you can understand my, confusion that the election is as close as it is. I get it. There are a lot of people who are simply reflexive Republicans. They think all the bad things about Democrats that Fox News tells them. But come on, people. Use some personal agency. Use some personal common sense. And look at this individual and say, would you trust him to watch your kids or feed your fish, let alone run your country? Come on. So as we get down to the final 5 weeks of this campaign, we come to a sobering reality. There are many Americans who are unreachable. They're unreachable by logic, by facts. So the task is to outvote them, and outvote them by a lot. Because let's face it, Trump is preparing to cheat. He is already spreading this nonsense that illegal immigrants are registering and will vote. What is that all about? Well, this is what he did after the 2016 election, which he won in the Electoral College. He couldn't accept the fact that Hillary Clinton got more popular votes than he did. So he cooked up a commission of his cronies to try to prove that 3 to 5 million Americans voted illegally. He couldn't do it because there's no such facts. Every serious study that has looked at this has concluded that illegal immigrants do not vote. And think about it. Why would they? Why would they risk deportation and criminal prosecution to vote? I get it. They're patriotic people. But really? Who's going to do that? These are the people who are afraid to call the police to report a crime because they don't want to interact with authorities. It's nonsense. And it is of a piece with his demonization of Haitians. It's of a piece with his statement that he will blame Jews if he loses the election. This is all part of his scheme to pre-butt the election results, to turn the country against immigrants, against Jews, to rile up his base, and yes, to try to steal another election. Mark my words, if he loses, and I think he will begin filing the same sort of baseless, bogus lawsuits he did in 2020. He will claim the election is rigged. He will implore his allies in Congress to throw out electoral votes, and he will encourage violence among his supporters. That is what he does. And in case you needed any reminder, stay tuned. Jack Smith, the prosecutor in the January 6th case, has filed an enormous document that is currently under seal, but might very well be unsealed. And that is a compendium of evidence, of facts, including, we think, interviews with people like Mike Pence, with the White House counsel, showing Trump's involvement, his role in the January 6th attempted coup. Trump has tried his level best to prevent this from being filed. He's going to try his level best to prevent the judge from releasing it into the public sphere, because once again, it's a reminder that Donald Trump has one goal and one goal only, and that is to destroy everything and everyone in his way. That includes Ukraine, that includes American democracy. So we'll see whether Judge Chutkan releases that filing and how much of it, and what bits of information we get to share. We may hear about some conversations between Pence and Trump. We may hear some conversations in which the White House counsel is warning Trump not to try to pull this off. But we'll have to wait for that. In the meantime, we have a scandal to beat all scandals in New York City. Mayor Adams has been indicted for multiple felonies involving receipt of bribes and campaign violations that essentially allowed him to launder money from the Turkish government and Turkish authorities through straw men donors that then contributed to him, for which he got matching funds, and, of course, did favors for the Turkish government. It's grotesque. It's, on its face, appalling. These are allegations. He will have his day in court. He will be able to make his defense. But he remains in office. And now is a test for the Democratic governor. She has the power under law to remove him, and she should. He can go about defending himself in court. But someone who has done what is alleged, with the facts that we know them to be, has no business running the city of New York. And you know who's waiting in the wings in case he should be removed? Yes, Andrew Cuomo. Wouldn't that be perfect? The guy who had to step down from the governorship, which then went to Kathy Hochul, is now angling to replace Eric Adams, who is under indictment, as mayor of New York. I don't think we can get any lower in American politics. And you'll notice what both Cuomo and Adams have done. They have used Trumpian language to attack authorities, to claim they are victims, to claim any and all legal actions against them are really to get to their followers. They want to get to you, but I'm in their way. This is fascist, corrupt nonsense that Donald Trump has now so popularized that even sleazy Democrats have adopted it. The people of New York should not put up with this. They should demand that he step down. They should demand that the governor do her job and remove him. And they should demand someone better than the likes of Andrew Cuomo as their mayor. Listen, this is one of the premier cities in America, and they need to show that they are governable and that the same sleaze, corruption, low standards that has infected the Republican Party at the national level does not control and overwhelm democracy at the city level when Democrats are concerned. But what is so interesting is how the two parties react to corruption and sleaze. Republicans celebrate. They never condemn. Mark Robinson is still in the race. Donald Trump is still in the race. They will stand by anybody for anything because all they care about is power. Democrats, they demanded that Senator Menendez step down. He eventually was forced to after he was convicted. We have Democrats calling for the mayor to step down. We have Democrats who have always stood up to people in their own party, including Andrew Cuomo, because they have a sense of public service, of obligation to the people of the United States. You didn't hear Democrats demanding that charges be dropped against Hunter Biden. You didn't hear Democrats condemn the FBI and the justice system. They don't do that because they are generally supportive of our institutions. And that is the difference between the two parties. It's not a policy difference. It's a moral difference. It's a constitutional difference. One party is on the level, is governing on behalf of all of us, and is determined as best they are able to follow the rules and to work for the American people. The other is not. Never in my lifetime have we had such a stark contrast. I voted, and I've been candid with you, for Republicans in the past. But when they lost, and sometimes they did, often they did, I was very comfortable that the Democrat who took over was not going to drive American democracy over a cliff or drive us into the arms of our enemies. We cannot have that same assurance with Donald Trump. And for those Republicans and columnists like Bret Stephens, who cannot bring themselves to vote for Kamala Harris because she's not specific enough. Sorry, she is specific. Who need more information? No, they don't. They have everything they need. For those people who, after all of this, cannot bring themselves to vote for the only responsible adult, I can simply say shame on them. And we should never, ever listen to what they have to say in the future. And the same is true for elected politicians and former electeds. And here, Mitt Romney is as bad as many of them. He's been candid. He's not voting for Donald Trump. Kudos for that. Kudos for his vote for impeachment, removal, conviction, twice. But he disgraces himself and his values by saying he can't bring himself to vote for Kamala Harris. He says he's afraid for his family's safety. Well, isn't that the best reason to vote for Kamala Harris? So you don't allow by passivity a thug to take over the presidency? And he says he wants to be part of the rebuilding of the Republican Party. Sorry, but if you have allowed a monster like Donald Trump to slide into office, you are in no position to reform the Republican Party. So here we sit, a little over 5 weeks from the election day, but early voting is underway. So if there's early voting in your state, get out there, make sure your friends and neighbors and family do the same. And we will have a vice presidential debate next week. Isn't that going to be a treat? We're going to see a governor, a sitting governor, who has served in the military for 24 years, who has served 6 terms in Congress, who has been governor of a major state, who has a record of accomplishment against someone who's been in office about 21 months and has done nothing for the American people. Well, let's see what he's done. Vance has voted against IVF. He's voted against contraception. He's made clear his views of American women, that they are essentially chattel. should remain in violent relationships, should not be able to make decisions about their own body. He has vilified Haitians in his home state, knowing that the allegations are false and that the consequences of his denunciation and his demonization has been violence, threatened violence, bomb threats against the community. He is the perfect match for Donald Trump. He's lower than low. So I look forward to Tim Walz holding him accountable. I look forward to the governor making the case that Mr. Vance and Mr. Trump are unfit to govern. And although vice presidential debates don't really move many votes, if any, I think it'll be a useful reminder as people do head to the early voting polls and return their early ballots, and as they prepare for Election Day itself, that there's no excuse to vote for these people. It's not a close call. So do your part, vote, make sure others vote, volunteer. There's a lot of door knocking yet to go. She does not have this in the bag. She's going to need to turn out the vote and win by a considerable margin to deflect and diffuse what we know are coming, which are claims of fraud and illegal voting. So there's a lot of work to do. Get at it. If you like this program, you like our other programs, you can click right there and subscribe. Please tell your friends and relations. They can find us wherever they get their podcasts. Bye-bye.